Thank you, everyone, for your patience and welcome to today's session. Tax season aftermath. First, I'm trying to see how we are doing. Have we gotten off that adrenaline rush? Are we really taking time off to just figure out how our season went? And I think that's usually what happens after tax season. Either we're taking time off, we're taking a vacation, or we just keep on working like usual. We keep on working on extended returns. What we need to do is take a breath and really look at our season on what the wins were and congratulate ourselves and celebrate those wins, but then also where are our opportunities in tax season, because that is how we're going to build a better strategy to make our tax season better for next season. I think what happens with all of my years and experience in tax seasons is I always am hopeful that next tax season will be better. And I always say, well, this season it's because we got a new client, a new process, but next season's going to be better. But taking that action on how we're going to make the tax season better is where our opportunity lies and where our action plan will come into full effect. Now, before I go on, there's new members that we do have joining us. Want to introduce myself, Nadia Rodriguez. I'm a CPA that has been in practice for over 15 years. My firm has shifted from just tax compliance to just advisory. I still do compliance work, but not majority of my clients are just on once a year compliance. Majority of my clients are business owners, Schedule C owners, 1120S, S Corp, and partnership owners. And what I do with them is we do an advisory subscription plan because we meet during the year where we could really help them save on that tax bill instead of trying to rush every season of just trying to get a spreadsheet filled out from them of what's your income, what's your expenses. And that's where the stress comes through because they need a lot of help on expense categorization and just gathering everything together. Now, as of September of last year, I did go ahead and take the big leap. I left the corporate world because I was running my practice as a side hustle, only part time. Now I run it full time. And I also have opened up the Nadia CPA Inner Circle, where you are joining us today. And in this circle, it's a community of tax pros. I am trying to bring everyone together and we need to help each other out. You know, the tax law keeps changing, processes keep changing, technology keeps advancing. And when we help each other out, we can all grow together and succeed together, building that community. I'm also the lead instructor with Tax Training Academy, where we provide more advanced courses and more learning, either self-study or hands-on, where we do live sessions as well. But welcome everybody to today's session. I am going to start us off before I move over to my desk because George is signaling that we have everything good. While I step over to another place to start presenting, I do want us to take a deep breath, celebrate that we're done with this 2025 tax season. It was a rough one. As I walk over there, let's make sure that we close our eyes and just take a full breath to celebrate our accomplishment. Give me 1 second as I move over. Now with that, let's go ahead and get started with our session. Of course, we've taken the time to breathe. And, sometimes I do have to remind myself, and I'm not going to lie, I have a sticky note on my monitor that says breathe. I learned this during one of my sessions with Mariette Martinez. She hosted a coach that was a health coach, mental coach, and talked about how important it is for us to just take a deep breath. It really resets our whole neurological system. There's the whole science behind it. So yes, we need to be better about taking a breath once in a while. Now, how are we going to spend our time together today? We're going to talk about the wins and the opportunities. We're going to make this a little bit collaborative, where I'm going to go ahead and start us off with what my wins were. Of course, I'm not going to list every single win, which I wish I had so many, but I really try to think back on what were the wins that I had. And I think because when we talk about wins, most of the time I'm thinking about, well, I had to do that anyway. How else was I going to get through tax season? But we have to celebrate those. We have to celebrate that we finished tax season and the little things that we did or the big things that we did helped us get to the finish line. And then I'm going to turn it over and see if in the chat we can share with each other, what were your wins? Because that's going to help the community think about, well, I did the same thing and I never considered it as a win. It's going to inspire others to really take a step back and congratulate each other and ourselves, of course, pat ourselves in the back that we're doing an amazing job. And then I'm going to talk about my opportunities during the season. What did I see that didn't go very well planned? And where's that opportunity that I want to act on to make next tax season better? And then, of course, turn it over to everybody in the group. Share your opportunities in the chat. How did you find tax season and what are you planning to do for next season? Again, this helps the whole group as a whole because maybe we did also go through those type of opportunities. We just never really considered it or wrote it down, or, once we went through it, we don't want to ever think about it again. And then we're going to talk about the game plan, right? We're talking about wins, opportunities, what's next. Because, like I said, early in my career, I always justified the brutality of tax season on maybe one client, two clients, some kind of weird situation, the tax law bill that passed. But we never really made a really good game plan on how to make it better. Over 15 years now with my firm, almost going on to 20 years, I'm telling you, not every tax season is perfect for me, but every tax season does implement a new change of what happened in the year before. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started with my wins. I'm going to share with you, be very open and vulnerable on where I thought, I'm going to give myself some credit, what I implemented new for this season and what actually worked well for me. Some things I implemented or didn't implement, that's where the opportunities lie. But let's think about the wins, because what we know is wins are not always big, like I said. Sometimes we're just thinking it's something that I have to do regardless. I have to do a return, I have to meet with the client, but they're actually wins because we met that finish line. Is it a process? Is it a boundary that we actually respected? Because I think that's where we come and we say, we are not going to take calls on a Sunday. And then there's that one client that just does not respect that boundary. But this year that we changed that we actually turn off our phone, maybe our business phone on a Sunday or not work on a Sunday. What was your boundary that you did respect this year? What about a process, something new that maybe you learned and you implemented and it worked pretty well? How about communication? Communicating with the clients in advance, maybe communicating that touch points during the year and not waiting until tax season starts. What was that small decision that you can celebrate today? When it comes to my personal experience, I implemented this for the very first time in over 15 years of running my firm. I required to get paid upfront. It was a little bit scary because when I sent my engagement letters, which is another opportunity I'm going to talk about, timing, when I sent my engagement letters at the beginning of January, I felt a little guilty because it was right after the holidays. And as you know, holidays, Christmas presents, celebrations, it gets pretty pricey. Where we start the year not in such a good time as with our bank accounts as we were before the holiday season. But this time I thought about myself. I thought about what's going to work for me. And based on my prior learning experience and prior learning opportunities, because I have been burnt in the past where I have worked on a return to the very end, communicate to the client their result. They're not very happy if they owe. And sometimes they decide to go with somebody else and don't pay me. I do lock the return. And then I learned, let me lock the return, not give them the return, the 88.79 until they pay. But some clients just walked away. They didn't care about locking a return. They didn't care about the 88.79. Maybe they didn't file. Maybe they went with someone else. So all of that time that I invested in preparing a return, working through the return, explaining the result, and not get paid was not the best. So yes, it was one of my learning experiences that I do have to this day. One client that he's 3 years behind and I've never heard from him again. So I said this year, I am going to require payment upfront. And I will tell you here, this is part of my engagement letter or my welcome, welcome to tax season. Attached is your engagement letter. I do mention my new billing process. As of this year, you can say effective as of January 1st of 2026. We have updated our rates and we are requiring now a full payment, not even just 50%. And I will tell you honestly, maybe about 50% of my clients did not come back. But at the end, the revenue that came in the door because of my updated market rates that I charged and the updated billing process that I have now, my revenue was greater than last year, even though with less of the clients. And that has a lot to do with the clients that really value you will respect your new processes with your firm. Another win was adding a new service. Again, these are learning opportunities that I had in the past that I am now implementing. And this is the first year I implemented this. I offered two packages to my clients that are only compliance related. If they're part of my advisory package, I include the service. It's part of their advisory monthly package, depending on the tier that they choose. But these that are one time tax prep services, I said, hey, I can prepare your tax return. Here is the services that it includes, or the same service plus the assurance service. And what is this assurance service? I'm going to show you more of the detail because we have to be very clear on communicating to our clients what's included and what is not included. Again, an opportunity that I've seen throughout the years on having that better communication where it's clear with the client. So you can see here my charge for the assurance service. Now, what this is was me telling their clients it's going to cover up to 3 hours of my time to respond to IRS notices, state notices. Because what happened in the past? The client received something in the mail, a notice from the federal government, the state agency. They don't really read it, they just send it over to me. What I did in the past was read through it, analyze it, see what's going on. What's the action plan? Do I need to call the IRS? Do I need to get a power of attorney? How do we respond to this notice? How do I translate this notice to the client so that they understand what are the next steps? And that was all for free. I was never charging for that. Why? Because I thought in my mind, since I prepared that return, it is my responsibility. And it's not. We have no control over when the agencies will issue a notice to our clients. Of course, there's the exception that if I read the notice and it was a mistake that I made, absolutely 100% I will cover that at no cost. I will amend the return, I will make the things right without a charge. So then I added this service out. It's think about it more like an insurance. Now my opportunity here is that I did have clients call me and try to figure out more about this because they might have not read my engagement letter, didn't understand what this service included. After I explained the service, all of them were adding this service because for $99, I told them I will cover up to 3 hours of my time to respond to a notice that you receive for the tax year that I'm preparing. And this is what I'm explaining on why this is one of my wins. I'm communicating clearly in writing. I might have had received a call from them where I had to verbally explain, but in writing, the engagement letter that they are signing off on, it states exactly detailed what I'm covering up to 3 hours. And if you don't add this service and later you receive a notice, I would be glad to help you out, but at a value of my hourly rate. So at least they know not to expect for me to work on the notice right away without either adding the assurance service or they pay me after I'm done with the return, they can pay me my hourly rate. So that was a win. I did get one client that received a notice about a credit and energy efficient for their vehicle. For their vehicle credit, the VIN, it was the dealer report. The dealer report was not matching the IRS system. And I had already told the client, the dealer report has to match. Your dealer should have had the responsibility to file a dealer report with the IRS because at the end, when we file this return and claim that energy efficient clean vehicle credit, their database tries to match the dealer report with the credit. And sure enough, the client received a notice where their refund was reduced and they did not allow the credit. And so I said to the client, I can draft the power of attorney. I'd be happy to add this service and I will send you a proposal for my hourly rate because I noticed you did not add the assurance service. And we did that. And now I didn't have that kind of, what do you call it? Where I was calling the IRS feeling like I should have charged for this. I charge for my time up front. My other win that I had was communicating deadlines. I communicated, and I'm going to show this in an opportunity too, because I thought I did a really good job communicating deadlines. I have TaxDome, which is a CRM, a client portal, where I communicated through a chat system, and it was part of their engagement letter too. So I did two types of communication, communicating by when the paperwork, the tax work papers, the questionnaire had to be answered in order for me to file the return by the deadline. I said March 18th. And then at the bottom, I also added an extension related service. So if you're not going to meet my deadline, but you still need me to prepare your return, I would be gladly fit you into my schedule at an extension related service fee. And that's exactly what happened. I started charging fees for an extension if they did not meet the deadline. Clients, not all of them agree. The ones that did, I happily filed the extension with a charge. It varied from 150 for just a 1040 extension. For the individual or for the individuals that have businesses where it required a little bit more work, depending on how much paperwork they have sent me. Have they sent me financials? It all depended on what work do I have to file an accurate extension estimate for them. That's where the fee would go up. But it started off minimum $150. And I did have clients pay for that extension because they did not respect the deadline. I will tell you, it is a little bit uncomfortable sometimes because you've had these clients for years and trying to roll out new processes, something that they are not used to, things that they were used to getting for free. But again, take a step back and think about your time, the time that you're not spending on your own personal health, time that you are not spending with your family. We need to value our time and charge for our time. So that's where I came into charging from consultations. Discovery calls for my firm used to be free. And again, an opportunity over time is what I learned is that I would meet with the client, talk about their tax return, their tax situation. And I did walk away when they would not accept the proposal that I would send them after our call, is that they really just wanted a tax consultation for free. And so when we're doing consultations with our clients, a discovery call, it's really hard for me at least to not really answer the questions if they're asking me, well, I heard that if I buy a vehicle at the end of the year, I can write it off. And what do? I think my instinct is, well, let's talk about it. If you buy a vehicle and if you have a business, and I really go into a tax consultation meeting. So I learned, and this is my personal, the way I am. If I can't respect my own boundary of Nadia, don't say anything, don't go into tax consultation, I'm going to start charging for consultations. And that's exactly what I do. And I do say for 30 minutes, my rate is $225. If we decide to work together, if you accept my proposal that I send you after our consultation meeting, that $225 will get credited towards your first invoice. And it worked. I did have clients do a discovery call for the first time, and I onboarded new clients to my list that paid the $225 and it got credited to their first invoice. But I felt so much better because now I knew that if I'm going to schedule my time, block my calendar, and I could freely give consultation advice during this time, 30 minutes, at least I charge for my time. So yes, your time and your expertise have value before the return is even prepared. Another one of my wins was using Loom videos. Now, I've done this in the past, but I did want to let you know and share this. I run my office is fully remote. So my clients, what I used to do in the past was send them an email, your return is ready. Here's a link to schedule a time with me so that we can go over your tax return. And so that did create a little bit of a not a fluent continuous calendar for me because I had a lot of breaks in between of like, oh, I meet with one client, I need to go back and reacquaint myself, remind myself this client's situation so that when we talk, I know which client I'm talking about. And it did provide a lot of interruptions throughout my day. So what I started to implement, and this was about 4 years ago, and I think because of COVID, we started going remote and clients started getting more accustomed and okay with being virtual and watching videos and a lot more time at home, right? I started now doing Loom videos. I used to use Zoom. I moved over to Loom because I like how it arranges my face. You can see at the bottom right in a small little circle instead of the Zoom platform. And what I do, I go over the entire tax return. And I'm talking about this is what an 11-minute video you can see. I send them a chat inside of our portal system and I say, hey, your return is ready. You have some action items. You have to watch the video. You review the return because I've uploaded it now to your portal. After you carefully review the return, if you have questions, schedule a time to meet with me and I give them a link to my calendar, or send me questions through the portal. But if you have no questions and you are okay with me filing your return, the next step is to sign the 8879, that authorization, so that I can e-file your return. I will tell you, did anybody send me a virtual meeting or schedule a virtual meeting? 100% of my clients signed the 8879 without needing that extra virtual meeting. And so that really cleared up my calendar. And again, it's a video that they have where they can pause, they can rewind, they can take their time to really listen to how I'm explaining the return. Now, I did do a session on our early days of Circle Community. You can still access a recording of the way that I walk my clients through a 1040 return. I go through the 2-year comparison and I show you my process. So you can go back to our recordings, access that recording on what I do in this recording. How do I explain? Because I don't go through all of the 100 pages of the return. I really just call out the very high level items for the client and don't explain tax law. I just go through what to look forward to next year and what I found opportunities for them to implement. And I do say in my video, if you would like advisory services, I will be sending out when I open my advisory client schedule. Well, I do want to say before I move on to this one, this was recording videos has worked out very well for me because sometimes I'm working late or on weekends. And so when I was doing the client returns review meeting with the clients, it really limited our time to either Monday through Friday, or sometimes our clients were not available until after work in the evenings. I record a video any time of the day. It could be late at night, but the client has it when they check their portal account. It's at my own time, so it's more flexible on recording the video in advance for them. Another win that I have was communicating balances due earlier. Again, through experience, and this happened with me with public accounting, one of my colleagues waited until April 15th to let the partner of the tax firm know that one of the clients owed, I think it was like $90,000 of tax. And I remember our partner was not happy at all. And that's where I learned my lesson. You need to communicate balances, even if it's estimated balances. If you haven't finished their return, let the client know in advance their balance, their estimated balance, and use the word estimated if we don't have a final amount. The reason is because our clients need time to move funds around, to make sure that they have enough funds to make this payment, and which payment method will they be using, or are they thinking more about applying for an installment plan, for a payment plan. It gives them that time to process the amount that they have to do, and that is due, and what the process is on how to pay the IRS or the state agency. So earlier communication with your client definitely will build that trust. Another win was blocking uninterrupted work time. On my physical schedule, I put my time block of maybe the first 3 hours of the day. I'm not checking email. I'm not meeting with anyone. I am going to work on just tax returns. And when the 3 hours were up, they were up, right? We had to attend meetings. I had to do other tasks, but time blocking really helped me out this season. I did listen to this through a video. I think it was a YouTube video. I forgot the effect. They call that the Pomodoro effect, of where you time block and you really just focus on that one uninterrupted window of time to work on a specific task. I even put my phone on do not disturb. And sometimes I would give my phone over to my husband, to George, and leave it at his desk because I really needed to focus on the task of preparing returns. Another win for me was that I did start creating SOPs. These are standard operating procedures or processes. Now, I don't have them in a perfect system. I don't have every process that I do written down, but most of my processes, if it's a dreadful task to do, I will tell you that, because you have to sit down and you really have to think about every step that you're doing. Or even better, use the technology of today. I use Loom to record myself and I speak out loud. I say, okay, you click on file, you do file, save as for every task that you work on. Save that standard operating process because it's going to help you to delegate in the future. And this has come very helpful to me because in the next one that I have is to identify those tasks that can be delegated. What can you pass down? Don't think about just preparing the return as a whole. Think about every single step of the way to prepare that return. Intake, right? You take in the work papers. Can somebody do that for you? Can somebody organize those for you? If you have a standard operating process for them to follow on how to organize your work papers, things that we can delegate. I have this at the bottom because you should always be thinking about this as a business owner, as you're working on something. Always ask yourself, should a CEO be doing this? Scheduling appointments, is that something that you can delegate? Think of every single process that is working in your firm that you can find someone or even AI to help you delegate that to. Which comes over to my last win, my win of using AI. AI is evolving and we know it's not going to go anywhere. So, how did I use AI? I did the Loom videos, like I said. I created a Loom video. Now, Loom has a feature to create an SOP for you. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been recording myself and just have Loom create that SOP. And we save it into a folder for all SOPs. Is somebody doing that process for me, or am I still doing it? I might still be doing it, but it's ready whenever I hire someone or can delegate, or maybe AI take over that process itself. Job descriptions, use AI as much as you can. The great thing is that we do have in the community coming up is an 8-week AI program. Definitely recommend it because again, AI is not going to go anywhere. With AI training that we have coming up, we are going to lay the foundation. Start from the very bottom, right? Even if you've never worked with AI, you don't want to miss the first session because that is where we explain just what is AI. And we are going to focus only on Claude. So it's going to get you really familiar with Claude after the 8-week program. It's going to help you with your processes to come up with your game plan to better your tax season next year. Now, with that, I would love to hear, or I guess you can type in the chat. I'd love to read. What did you have as a win this year? Think about anything, even if your win was just finishing all the client returns and not extending anyone, or maybe only extending 10% of your clients. That's a win. Really reflect on what your wins were this year. Was it a process? Was it a boundary that I can learn from you? What boundaries did you put and really respected those boundaries? Was it spending time with the family? Was it the deadlines that your clients had to meet? If not, you would charge them extra. If I open up the chat, I'd be very interested. So we have, let's see, I'm just reading from the bottom up. I went 3 years with the same amount of clients, and this year you doubled. We have Esmeralda, she doubled her clientele and earned more on your own than at the office where I work for a salary. I'm thinking on doing only part-time at the office and go full-time as your business, especially now that I'm taking the S Corp class. Yes, Esmeralda, this is it's a great win, right? You're recognizing where the income and the revenue can be generated more in those S Corp clients. Because not only do we have to prepare a completely separate return, we're helping our clients save that tax money, that now that savings can be used to pay for our fee for preparing this S Corp return. And so you went 100% virtual, Brenda. Yes. How are you feeling about being virtual? How did your clients take it? Because if you were first meeting with clients, I will tell you, I had a home office where I had clients come inside my home and we would meet during tax season. And it was a little bit, this is my first year where it's 100% remote. And so there is this one client that still wanted to meet face to face. And we did rent out a room at the bank, at the local bank. I do bank with a bank called Comerica, and they have a shared space, office space. You can reserve those rooms as part of their perks for having a bank account at their bank. You can reserve a room, a conference room, and that's exactly where I met my client. So yes, it was just one out of all the clients that were still year after year still wants to meet in person to feel the return. I don't know, but it was, we did work with that. The rest were okay. And some of them took a little bit more hand holding on showing them around the portal, the TaxDome portal that we have. But definitely I can say it's a win now. Back then it was an opportunity of how do we onboard them a little bit better, and we have fully onboarded all of our clients. So after tax season, what is next? Focusing on content and education, Joanne. Yes, that is a great thing because exactly we've done tax season. Now, what's the next step with the new law and the new provisions that are applying this year with the One Big Beautiful Bill? There are new provisions that are applying. We need to start staying up to date with that and identifying those clients that will be affected with those new provisions that come. One of the provisions I can just quickly tell you, right? This is when you get me in a room and talk about tax, I can go forever, geeking out about tax. But one of the provisions, because as we know, last year, many provisions disallowed credits and deductions to those that did not have a social security number, right? The child tax credit was the worst one. It didn't allow the parents that credit if they did not have a social security number. This year in 2026, it's the education credit. The American Opportunity Credit, the Lifetime Learning Credit are no longer available to those parents that don't have a valid social security number, even though that their student dependent has a social security number. So yes, we'll get some more feedback, and I can go over the rest of the comments towards the end. Let's go on into the opportunities. And again, this is where I'm being vulnerable because sometimes it's like I don't want to talk about what went wrong because sometimes I blame myself or I blame the environment, the tax bill that happened. But really, let's think about this. Let's think about those opportunities. And I call them opportunities. I don't call them failures or anything, right? Because we can always improve on anything that didn't go well. So there are pressure points to become a better process. And so my first opportunity that I identified, well, before that, I'm just reminding you, they're not a failure opportunities. It's just really a time to reflect and how can we make it better to not repeat that what we consider a failure. So my first opportunity was sending the engagements letters earlier. I sent them on January 1st, and that was what I was telling you, that back when I sent it on January 1st, that's when I said, oh, I should have sent them earlier. I have heard other tax pros send engagement letters as early as November for the year, for the tax season that's coming up, and even offer a discount that if you pay in full your whole invoice for work that's going to get done in the following year, you get a 10% discount. And so that's before the holidays hit, the holiday spending hits. So that's something that I might experiment this year, sending those earlier, because I do feel like after on January 1st, people are still distracted with the holidays or trying to do their New Year's resolutions, not really thinking about signing an engagement letter, and especially the way I did it, where you have to pay me up front. So I'm going to try that this year. I'll let you know how it goes. It's an opportunity. I can test it out, send it out in November, the engagement letter, offering a discount that you can pay in advance 100%, or at least have them sign. I still need to figure out the process, but definitely an opportunity on how I can get more clients on board with letting me know in advance whether they're coming back so that I can plan ahead for my capacity. Straightening the client reminders. This is another opportunity where clients came to me and said, I didn't check my email. I didn't check the client portal. And so I can tell you right now, email, I'm not so well at checking every single email every single day. There's things, especially during tax season, there was things that I completely missed from the kids' activities because I wasn't checking email. And so straightening that client reminder, what I'm going to implement this season is within TaxDome, they have an SMS feature. I can send them text reminders. There is an additional cost for it. I haven't really looked into how much. Or do I personally send a text message from my phone and have maybe my kids help me send those text messages from my phone? But I think I'm going to implement the text reminders. People are so much better on their phone with text than checking email. Another opportunity is improving TaxDome workflows. I use TaxDome, and we also have a recording of a demo if you want to check it out, where we had somebody from TaxDome show us how it works and more questions of how the CRM, how the client portal works. But I do use TaxDome. I try to implement a workflow this year. I would love to perfect it a little bit more. So that's definitely on my radar for an opportunity. I know we have a couple members in the community that also use TaxDome. I would love to create a support group for TaxDome so we can share ideas on learning how to work with TaxDome. Opportunity number 4, and this is a very personal one for me, is protecting your health during tax season. I think I get so involved in work that I did forget to take a step back and take a walk, take a breath, take a deep breath, drink water. And so my opportunity that I am improving this year and even starting today going forward, right? Because we're continuing working on extended returns and other in tax education, is putting a timer on my phone to remind myself, get up and walk or drink some water or both. But most definitely, I want to be better. And I hope everybody holds me accountable. That's why I'm speaking it out loud, is to protect my physical health. We need to take care of ourselves because if you think about it, does it not scare you when you say, what happens if tomorrow I just cannot physically do all of these returns that are in the pipeline? We need to be better at putting ourselves first. At least I do, and this is why I'm speaking it out loud, but definitely setting my work boundaries of there's a time to stop and just walk away and enjoy the kids, enjoy the family. So most definitely after 15 years in tax season, I can tell you this is always my number one opportunity that I need to get better. And every year I'm improving with putting timers now on my phone to make sure that I get up and walk and take that sip of water. My other opportunity, because it was also a win for me was definitely leveraging AI, using AI. But my opportunity is to get better. Really, the way AI is evolving, I can tell you my journey with AI. I started using ChatGPT, what was it, 3 years ago when it first came out. And it was more about like playing around with it. And then I started getting better at using ChatGPT, even for tax research. And then recently I discovered Claude, maybe about 6 months ago, and we started playing with it. And I'm amazed. I am so mind blown with AI that I want to get more experience with Claude and more. How can I look at my processes? What can AI do for me instead of hiring somebody to help me do these processes? Can AI take over? So definitely that's on my opportunity list, is never stop learning and get better at looking at how I can use AI. Moving away from where I started with AI was help me write this email, help me write this client communication. Now I'm really wanting, and you're going to see the cool stuff about Claude is connecting it and doing actual things. One of the things that I can tell you about my win that I did during the year is I have a client who pays our fee to scan receipts for them. They pay us a monthly fee. And so I pay my kids to scan those receipts. When they scan them on the scanner, the way the scanner saves each of those receipts in a PDF format, it puts all these weird numbers and characters that have nothing to do. So what we did, and you're going to see this amazing thing about Claude, we're going to show you during our 8-week program. We connected Claude and we said, go and analyze each of these receipts and rename those files to the vendor name, the amount, and the date. Amazing. It took probably, and George will tell you when we do the 8-week program, I think it took maybe about 2 hours to sort through 2025 tax year receipts. And there was a lot of receipts that my kids till this day say, Mom, why is this client spending so much money? But yes, that's what is happening with Claude. We're excited to roll out our AI training so that you can see the amazing things. So that's where I'm saying we're moving on with AI, evolving with AI. Not only am I using it to draft emails, now I'm really moving into creating it like an assistant, because I would have paid somebody to help me go in and review those emails or review the scanned receipts and rename them to what the content is in a way that makes sense for me. But another opportunity is to create a better onboarding package for my clients. There was a lot of miscommunication on, what's next? What do I do? When's the questionnaire coming my way? What's your intake form? So definitely my opportunity is to build maybe like a onboarding package I'm curious if anybody has something like that already that they've implemented, what has worked well for you. I'm envisioning more like an onboarding package of welcome to the firm. This is, welcome client. These are the next steps. This is where you can find communications with Nadia. You can find the portal, just steps one by one instead of trying to communicate with our clients through a chat system or through a meeting. Because I can tell you after our meeting, the client's not going to remember too much of what was step one versus step 2 or 3. So definitely I want to work on a better onboarding package for my clients. And even the older clients, the clients, just kind of remind them, remember, we use TaxDome. Remember, you have to pay up front before I can do your return. So I will keep you updated on how that onboarding package looks like, but curious if anybody else has an onboarding package. My opportunity number 7, following up on advisory opportunities. When I record those videos for my clients explaining their tax return, I leave off the conversation with going forward to next year. I highly recommend you contributing more into a retirement account because, as you can see, and how I explained it in the video, it reduces your taxable income. But I want to really follow up on that. In the video, I do say, let me know if you need advisory services, or I'm going to contact you when my book of advisory clients opens up. I'm going to be more proactive this year, or even not this year, but starting maybe in the next month in May, is identifying those clients that need that advisory service. The small business owners, the Schedule Cs, most definitely, the entity returns. Where can I plug in, and how can we meet during the year and provide those advisory packages to them? Also, in the circle, I do have a session that we recorded on how to move into advisory, and just giving you a heads up. I also posted the upcoming session that I partner with Intuit, where I'm going to talk about moving into advisory services. It's on May 13 and May 14. We posted that in the circle community so that you make sure to register and attend, but definitely start really moving into advisory services for your client. Now we're going to turn it over. What opportunities do you have? What are your plans? Are you prioritizing health? Are you being strict on more deadlines with your clients? Let us know in the comments in the chat and share what those opportunities are. Even if you can't think of any right now, we can always continue the conversation in the circle community. So again, you inspire others that sometimes we don't stop and think about it as an opportunity. We just, again, justify it with the environment and move on. And the next year, what's going to happen? It's going to bite us in the butt, and we're going to go through that same opportunity. So what did you identify in this tax season and that you wish to better for next season? What's your plan? What opportunities? You started using Claude last week, Barbara. Yes. Claude has been amazing. So definitely an opportunity, right? You're implementing your opportunities. Start getting used to AI. Start playing around with AI, experimenting. Get more sleep. Yes, that is definitely an opportunity to get more sleep, because I can tell you, when I used to work in public accounting, there was probably about 4 weeks straight where we were working Sunday through Sunday. The quality of those tax returns was not the best. Working at 2 a.m., I was working until 2 a.m. on tax returns, my team and I. And again, can clients really trust the work that we were doing? Probably not. Not at 2 a.m. with lack of sleep and lack of any kind of nutrients or really physical activity. Now we're asking, how do you deal with extensions? Do you wait for them to call you, or you call them 2 months or 3 months? Okay, that's a great question, Marty. So I give them my deadline. I say March 18th, and then I send them another chat, maybe about 2 weeks after. We still haven't heard back, or actually it's a week after. We didn't hear back from you. It's been past March 18th. We didn't hear back from you. Just remember, if you still need our help to file the extension, it's going to be an additional. Let us know, and we need to send you a revised engagement letter. But I do send the automated messages. I think the last message that I sent was on April 10th. And I said, what I do is I remind them there's interest and penalties that are due if you don't file an extension. If you need our office to help you, please let us know, and we can send you a revised engagement letter. I always say a revised engagement letter because I don't want them to assume that it's a free service. But yes, how many times do I communicate? Probably it was probably a week after the deadline of my internal deadline of March 18th, and then maybe two more touch points that we did. But we did the chat system in TaxDome and also an email. I think the opportunity that I'm doing is I'm going to implement text, because that was some of the excuses some of my clients said, that they never checked, that they never got a call or a text. I'm not going to call them. I'm going to send them a text message for next tax season. Joanne, you want to incorporate more tax advisory because you spill. Yes, we give our advice for free. That is exactly what we do. Again, it's part of our nature, right? We're like, oh my God, we geek out about tax, right? We nerd out about tax. And you got to know about this tax that applies to you because it could save you so much more money. And we really start just giving so much advice for free. One, the clients are probably it's over their head. They're not as excited as we are because they didn't really understand too much. They're not seeing any numbers on paper of how much the savings could be by implementing that one strategy that we're really excited about. So most definitely advisory services. It to me, it has worked amazing meeting with the clients throughout the year because there are no surprises when we file the return. There's still things that we can do before the year end closes. And the way I offer the advisory packages is I used to offer monthly advisory. I have moved away from offering monthly advisory because it's only me. And I'm really excited about creating my courses and doing more of my inner circle sessions. I've stepped into quarterly advisory and biannual advisory. So we'll meet twice a year, in the middle of the year and then towards the end of the year. And I do structure it where I include their tax prep fee, but they do have to pay a monthly subscription, regardless if we meet only twice a year or if we meet once a quarter. It still involves a monthly payment from them. So what about the ones that have been filed as of April 15? Oh, you still have 200 returns that you extended, Marty. Yeah, that's a big number. I would definitely start pinging them now. I do have maybe about 15 clients that extended. I have started sending them in messages, because I think after April 15, what I've done in the past and the opportunity that I had for this season that I'm implementing is more contact points right away. Maybe I let them 2 weeks rest after April 15, and then I send them a message. Hey, I'm still here. I'm still waiting. And then I implement another deadline for them as well. By what's the deadline? Not March 15, September 15. We do say about 30 days before is our internal deadline that you need to have everything in the door by September 15. I haven't had a chance or the opportunity, right? A scenario where a client goes past that date. I've heard other tax professionals charge a rush fee. I will do this year if my client 30 days before the 9/15 or the 10/15 deadline, if they're not sending me their information, I am going to be really strict about a rush fee. If I'm going to stay up late and work on your return to meet the deadline, it's going to be a rush fee. If not, just know that there's penalties and interest by not filing by the deadline. So yes, Marty, I would definitely recommend let's start doing it now. Start reaching out to those clients and just remind them that you're still waiting on them and talk about deadlines. What I did one season was I actually had a speaking engagement during tax season, and I told my clients I am going to be out of town during the week of the deadline. So I need your things by such and such date. I had one client reach out to me during the week that I was out of town. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I am out of town. And that kind of puts that pressure on them too, that the deadline is a deadline. I'm going to be unavailable. And you don't have to, explain yourself that it's going to be out of town, or you could just have to say, I won't be available for the week of the deadline. But yes, so what's our game plan now? Moving forward, let's talk quickly about the game plan. I want everybody to identify 3 wins, right? We shared some in the chat. Think about what those 3 wins are for you during tax season. Congratulate yourself. Really give yourself props for those wins. What about 3 opportunities? Where are 3 things areas maybe, or different processes that you would like to improve and implement? And then just one change, right? Let's not get overwhelmed, but we can start one step at a time. What is one change that you want to start implementing today to get you ready for the tax season? because reflection becomes valuable when we turn it into action. Again, over the years where we said, oh, this tax season, we justify the reason why it went so bad. And if we don't implement or make it better, it's going to repeat the process, and it's a vicious cycle of it being bad again for next tax season. Now, we do need to make sure that we choose one boundary to tighten. I told you already mine was my physical health, and hold me accountable for that. That's my boundary. Put myself first. Get off at a certain time during work. Don't put work first, put myself first. Choose one process to document for that standard operating procedure that I was talking about. This will help you. It's, like I said, it's dreadful because in your mind, you're probably thinking it's just going to take me quicker to do it myself than to write every step of this process. But trust me, trust the process, write it down into a standard operating process. Use Loom and have it do it for you as you record yourself. You're going to thank yourself later when you start growing and you can scale and hire more people to help you out. So choose one task to automate or to delegate out of those processes that you're writing down. What can AI help you with, and what can you delegate? Choose one habit to protect your energy. Is it the walks? Is it the drinking water? Is it just breathing, taking that deep breath? Really put ourselves first, and how are we going to implement that? Now, after the session, once the recording gets processed, I do want to share with you a prompt that you can use with AI. You can either use it now or wait until we start the training, but really load this into AI, and the way this prompt works, it's gonna interview you. It's gonna act like a business coach, and it's gonna ask you questions. And the prompt is saying, ask me the questions to get to know my firm better so that we can identify what the wins were and where the opportunities are. And so go ahead and try it out. We'll give you a link to that. Copy and paste it into your AI, either ChatGPT or Claude.